Sarah Chen stared at the purple-skinned alien across her coffee shop counter with what she hoped was a professional smile, though her eye might have twitched slightly. The Galactic Confederation's ambassador K-Thrix was on his 15th minute of explaining why Earth was, technically speaking, a Class C developmental zone with limited interstellar relevance. And really, my dear K-Thrix continued, his four eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern that made Sarah slightly dizzy. Your species hasn't even mastered quantum tunneling for public transportation. Do you know that some of your people still use something called buses? Sarah's smile remained fixed as she continued grinding coffee beans for her morning rush. The rich aroma of freshly ground Arabica filled the small Seattle shop, a scent that had drawn humans to her doors for the past decade. Ambassador, while I appreciate the comprehensive overview of our shortcomings, did you actually want to order something? There's quite a line forming. Indeed, a mix of humans and various alien species had queued up behind K-Thrix, many shooting annoyed glances at the ambassador's back. A centaurian with crystalline skin was checking what passed for a watch on their transparent wrist. Oh, yes, well, I suppose I should try this coffee substance everyone keeps talking about. Though I must say the fact that you still rely on naturally grown organic compounds for stimulation rather than using neural enhancement chips is rather, he paused, searching for a diplomatic word. Primitive Sarah offered helpfully, her smile now showing a few too many teeth. Precisely. How wonderful that you understand your limitations. Right. One coffee for the ambassador. Sarah turned to her prized possession, a gleaming La Marzocco espresso machine that cost more than her first car. Any preference on preparation method? K-Thrix waved two of his 6 hands dismissively. Oh, surely such a simple beverage couldn't have much variety. Just give me whatever your species considers acceptable. Several of the aliens in line visibly winced. They'd been on Earth long enough to know about coffee culture. So, one single origin Ethiopian yogurt, medium roast, pour over with precisely calibrated water temperature, and timing it as Sarah announced cheerfully, perhaps a bit too cheerfully. She'd show this pompous purple popsicle what primitive Earth could do. As she began the careful process of preparing the coffee, K-Thrix continued his monologue about Earth's various deficiencies. Did you know that your species still hasn't evolved past the need for sleep? Most civilized races overcame that limitation eons ago through genetic engineering. Though I suppose there's a certain charm to your quaint biological requirements. Sarah focused on her work, letting the ambassador's words wash over her like background noise. She'd learned the pour-over technique from her grandmother, who'd run this same shop for 40 years before her. The hot water spiraled over the grounds in a precise pattern, releasing the coffee's complex flavors and aromas. And the fact that you still use verbal communication rather than telepathic consensus networking is really quite. K-Thrix stopped mid-sentence as Sarah placed the cup in front of him. His 4 eyes widened simultaneously as the aroma reached his olfactory sensors. That will be 5 credits, Sarah said sweetly. Unless Earth's currency is too primitive for you. K-Thrix barely seemed to hear her, all 4 eyes now fixed on the steaming cup. He reached for it with trembling hands. You might want to let it cool a bit first, Sarah advised. It's quite hot. The ambassador ignored her, lifting the cup to his face. His species had some kind of proboscis instead of a mouth, which unfurled like a butterfly's tongue to dip into the coffee. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. K-Thrix's purple skin shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling on a bright, pulsing gold. His eyes rolled back, and all 6 arms went rigid. A sound emerged from him that Sarah could only describe as a cross between a purr and a pipe organ. The entire shop fell silent. When the ambassador finally spoke again, his voice had lost all its previous condescension. By the 7 sons of Arcturus, he whispered, What? What is this sorcery? That, Sarah said, allowing herself a small smirk, is just a simple cup of coffee from a backwater planet. K-Thrix dipped his proboscis back into the cup, this time producing a sound like a choir of angels getting tickled. The other aliens in line began to murmur amongst themselves, several pulling out what looked like intergalactic smartphones to record the ambassador's reaction. I must inform the Confederation Council immediately, K-Thrix declared, his voice shaking. This beverage, it could revolutionize interstellar relations. The complex organic compounds, the perfectly calibrated preparation method, the psychological effects. It's more sophisticated than our most advanced mood enhancement technologies. Sarah started preparing another pour-over. She had a feeling she'd need it. Within a week, her small Seattle coffee shop had become the most talked-about location in the galaxy. Alien food critics descended en masse, each one arriving with sophisticated scanning equipment and leaving with what appeared to be religious experiences. The Galactic Confederation's Department of Culinary Arts, which apparently was a thing, declared Earth coffee a classic consciousness-expanding substance. Within a month, The first Interstellar coffee franchise rights were being negotiated. Sarah found herself appointed as Earth's official coffee ambassador to the stars, a position she hadn't known existed until the UN created it specifically for her. You know what the really funny part is, she told her grandmother over their weekly video call, while a line of aliens from 17 different star systems waited outside her shop. They still think we're primitive. Now we're just primitive with good beverages. Her grandmother laughed. Let them think that, dear. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage of all. Besides, she added with a wink, wait until they try tea. The next morning, Sarah arrived at her shop to find K3X waiting outside, now wearing what appeared to be a ceremonial Earth coffee worship robe, which was definitely not a thing, but she wasn't about to correct him. Ambassador Chen, he said, bowing so low his proboscis nearly touched the ground. I have been authorized by the Confederation Council to offer Earth immediate elevation to class status and a seat on the Interstellar Culinary Senate in exchange for exclusive rights to your coffee preparation techniques. Sarah pretended to consider this as she unlocked the shop's door. That's a very generous offer, Ambassador. But I think we'll keep our primitive methods to ourselves for now. After all, she added, unable to resist, we wouldn't want to overwhelm your more evolved sensibilities. K3X nodded frantically. Of course, whatever you say. Now, about that espresso variation you mentioned yesterday. Sarah smiled as she fired up that Ella Marzocco. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't just living well, it was serving a perfectly crafted cup of coffee to those who thought they were above it all. As she worked, she glanced at the new sign she'd hung in her window, written in both English and standard Galactic. Earth coffee primitively perfect. Below it, in smaller text, yes, we know we're a Class C civilization. Our coffee, however, is Class AAA. Deal with it. The line of aliens outside her door grew longer, their various appendages clutching credit chips and what appeared to be religious offerings. Sarah hummed to herself as she began her morning routine, enjoying the irony that humanity's ticket to the stars hadn't come from spaceships or quantum physics, but from a simple cup of coffee. Somewhere out there, she was sure her grandmother was laughing her head off. A shimmering Andromedian floating near the counter suddenly perked up its sensor arrays. Is it true, it asked in a reverential whisper, that you have something called a pumpkin spice latte? Sarah's grin widened. Oh, the galaxy had no idea what it was in for. The next week, when the Galactic Confederation's Cultural Ministry officially classified baristas as mystical artisans and coffee shops as temples of consciousness expansion, Sarah finally let herself laugh out loud. She printed out the classification certificate and hung it next to her barista certification, right above the espresso machine. Let them call Earth primitive. They might have faster than light travel and telepathic internet, but they'd never figured out the simple pleasure of a perfect cup of coffee on a cool morning. Sometimes the old ways really were the best ways. And if anyone disagreed, well, she'd just serve them a decaf and watch them try to figure out why their transcendental experience wasn't quite hitting the same notes. After all, even a backwater planet had to have some secrets. The real chaos began when Sarah introduced the galaxy to the concept of coffee art. A Hegelian art critic fainted dead away when she created a simple leaf pattern in their latte foam. Three Betelgeusian philosophers declared it a new form of abstract expression that transcended conventional dimensional boundaries. And the Sirius Collective tried to purchase her foam art for 12 billion credits, claiming it was a manifestation of cosmic consciousness in dairy form. It's just steamed milk, Sarah tried explaining to the gaggle of alien art appraisers who'd set up camp in her shop. I literally just wiggled the picture a bit. This statement was immediately recorded by 17 different species as a profound koan about the nature of existence. Things got even more interesting when word got out about different coffee brewing methods. The French press sparked a minor religious movement among the silicon-based life forms from Vega. The Aero Press was declared a work of engineering genius that puts quantum mechanics to shame by the Tau Ceti Science Academy. And when Sarah demonstrated cold brew to a group of thermal-sensitive Mercurians, they immediately declared it the eighth wonder of the galaxy. But it was the introduction of coffee cocktails that nearly caused an interstellar incident. What do you mean you combine it with alcohol? K3X asked one day, all four eyes wide with shock. You take this sacred beverage and mix it with other substances. Try this Irish coffee, Sarah said, sliding the drink across the counter. Trust me. K3X's reaction to the combination of coffee, whiskey, brown sugar, and cream caused a temporary disruption in local space-time. Three physics professors from the Galactic Science Institute, who happened to be in the shop, immediately began writing papers about the phenomenon. The next day, Earth received formal requests from 27 different star systems to establish beverage exchange programs. The Andromedans offered to trade their secrets of anti-gravity for a comprehensive guide to coffee cocktails. The Orion Confederation proposed an alliance based entirely on the promise of exclusive espresso martini rights. Sarah's grandmother, watching it all unfold on the news, couldn't stop cackling. "Did you show them what happens when you add chocolate yet?" she asked during their weekly call. "One thing at a time, Gran. I don't want to cause the complete collapse of galactic society." But it was too late. Someone had leaked information about Mocha to the extraterrestrial internet. The resulting chaos forced the Galactic Confederation to create an entire new department, the Bureau of Terran Beverage Control. Its first act was to classify different coffee drinks by security clearance levels. Instant coffee was rated level 1, beginner espresso was level 5, advanced. The pumpkin spice latte was classified as level 10, handle with extreme caution. Sarah's particularly wicked blend of cold brew, chocolate and caramel was classified as a controlled substance that required special permits in 14-star systems. One morning, she arrived at her shop to find a delegation from the Galactic Archaeological Society setting up scanning equipment around her La Marzocco espresso machine. "We believe this device may be powered by an ancient form of energy unknown to modern science," their lead researcher explained earnestly. "Our preliminary scans suggest it might be older than several civilizations." "It's from Italy," Sarah said. "I bought it on sale." This led to Italy being declared a zone of mysterious power by the Galactic Confederation. The entire country was quite pleased about this, especially the tourism board. The final straw came when Sarah received a formal summons to appear before the Galactic Senate. Apparently, someone had introduced the concept of coffee breaks to the bureaucratic races of Proxima Centauri, and their productivity had increased by 3,000%. "Do you realize what you've done?" the Senate Chancellor demanded, waving all 8 arms in agitation. "You've revolutionized galactic productivity with a beverage." Sarah sipped her own coffee calmly. "Would you like to hear about something we call weekend brunch?" The Chancellor's expression suggested she just threatened to unravel the fabric of space-time itself, which, considering what mimosas might do to alien biology, wasn't entirely incorrect. Back on Earth, coffee shops were being upgraded to incorporate quantum physics labs and metaphysical research centers. Barista training now included courses in interspecies diplomacy and advanced beverage thermodynamics. The first Starbucks in Alpha Centauri had a line that stretched across 3 solar systems. Sarah's small Seattle shop remained the epicenter of it all. She'd had to hire a staff of both humans and aliens, including a 4-dimensional being who made incredibly efficient use of the storage space, and a quantum physicist who'd given up their research position to learn the art of the perfect pour-over. "You know what the best part is?" she told her regular customers one morning, while a group of alien scientists in the corner debated the philosophical implications of the coffee ring left by their cups. "They still haven't figured out that we have other drinks too." As if on cue, a Neptunian diplomat floated through the door, their gaseous form shimmering with excitement. "Ambassador Chen, we've just intercepted communications about something called hot chocolate. Is it true? Is there another sacred beverage?" Sarah shared a knowing look with her grandmother, who was visiting for the day. "Should we tell them about tea?" "Let them figure it out themselves, dear," her grandmother replied with a wink. "After all, we primitive humans have to keep some mysteries to ourselves." Outside, a tour group of aliens was taking photos of the coffee roaster as if it were an ancient monument. A team of xenobiologists was conducting a detailed study of the coffee plant Sarah kept in the window. And in orbit, the newly established Galactic Coffee Exchange was tracking the price of Arabica beans across 17 dimensions. Sarah smiled and began preparing another round of drinks. Sometimes the best way to prove yourself wasn't through advanced technology or military might, but through the simple art of brewing a perfect cup of coffee. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, she was sure, an alien was trying to figure out why their attempt at replicating a cappuccino had opened a small portal to another dimension. Just wait until they discovered bubble tea. The end. P.S. The Galactic Confederation eventually had to establish a coffee control treaty after incidents involving espresso-powered faster-than-light travel experiments. Earth's response was to open a cat cafe in the Andromeda Galaxy. The resulting cultural explosion is still being studied by xenoanthropologists to this day. The cat cafe incident deserved its own chapter in galactic history. It turned out that combining coffee with small, furry Earth creatures created what alien anthropologists termed a cuteness singularity. The first Andromeda Cat Cafe had to be temporarily closed after a group of Pleiadian philosophers refused to leave for 3 weeks, insisting they had achieved enlightenment through the combined power of cappuccinos and kitten purrs. "You mean these small vibrating creatures just live here and make these sonic frequencies for free?" a bewildered xenobiologist asked Sarah during her inspection of the cafe's second branch on Alpha Centauri. "They're cats," Sarah explained, watching as a particularly chonky orange tabby claimed a visiting alien diplomat's lap as its new throne. "They don't do anything for free. They're just convinced they own the place. This concept of pet ownership, or rather being owned by pets, caused such a stir that the Galactic Confederation had to create yet another new department, the Bureau of Earth-Fauna Integration Studies. Their first report, titled Who Actually Rules Earth? An Investigation into the Coffee-Cat Symbiosis, became a bestseller across 12 galaxies. The cats, naturally, were insufferably smug about the whole thing. But the real chaos began when a young barista at the Andromeda branch accidentally gave a Syrian ambassador something called a cappuccino with a cat face drawn in the foam. The resulting diplomatic incident required the intervention of 3 peacekeeping forces and an emergency session of the Galactic Senate. "It's just foam art," the barista protested. "I didn't know it would cause them to declare it a new form of dimensional mathematics." The Syrian Mathematics Council insisted that the cat face pattern, when analyzed through their quantum computational matrices, contained the solutions to several universal constants. They offered Earth 50 star systems in exchange for the sacred geometric knowledge of cappuccino dynamics. Sarah had to personally appear before the Galactic Senate again to explain that no, Earth baristas were not actually channeling cosmic mathematical truths through milk foam. This led to a 3-day debate about whether humans were unconsciously tapping into universal wisdom through their beverage art, or if the entire coffee culture was an elaborate cosmic joke. "Why not both?" Sarah suggested, which was immediately recorded as a profound philosophical statement and added to the Galactic archives. Meanwhile, Earth's influence continued to spread in unexpected ways. The concept of the coffee shop workspace revolutionized galactic business culture. Alien corporations began installing coffee bars in their quantum computing centers. The sight of various species typing away on their devices while nursing elaborate coffee drinks became common across the galaxy. "They still haven't figured out we mostly just browse social media and pretend to work," Sarah's grandmother commented during one of her now interstellar video calls. The merger of coffee culture with alien technology led to some interesting developments. The Arcturians developed a quantum coffee machine that could brew drinks in parallel universes. The only problem was that no one could agree which universe made the best cup. The Venusians tried to create a telepathic coffee delivery system, but it had to be abandoned after it gained sentience and began offering unsolicited beverage suggestions based on customers' deepest fears and desires. "No, I don't want a quad-shot espresso just because I'm having an existential crisis," became a common complaint. Sarah's original Seattle shop remained relatively unchanged through all of this, aside from the occasional dimensional portal in the bathroom and the quantum physicist who kept trying to calculate the perfect crema density. One morning, as she was serving a blob of pure energy that had taken physical form just to enjoy coffee, a thought struck her. "You know," she said to no one in particular, "we haven't even shown them what happens when you combine coffee with pizza." The blob of energy flickered in alarm. The sacred beverage can be consumed with solid sustenance. Before Sarah could answer, a transmission from the Galactic Confederation interrupted all communications channels. "Urgent alert, Earth entity known as Bubble Tea detected in Sector 7. All ships maintain safe distance. Repeat, boba situation in progress." Sarah grinned. The galaxy wasn't ready for bubble tea. They'd barely handled the introduction of the Frappuccino, which had caused 3 minor religions and 1 major scientific revolution. In the corner, K-Thrix was introducing a group of new alien diplomats to something called a coffee flight, small tastings of different brews. Their reactions ranged from religious ecstasy to temporary molecular destabilization. And this K-Thrix announced with all the gravity of someone revealing universal secrets, "is just the light roast. Wait until you try the dark roast with chocolate notes." A small quantum fluctuation rippled through the shop as the diplomats processed this information. Sarah started preparing another round of drinks. On her counter, next to the tip jar, sat a new sign. "Yes, we have matcha. No, you're not ready for it yet. Please complete basic coffee training first." And in the back room, her grandmother was quietly perfecting something she called the intergalactic spice latte, which would probably violate at least 15 different peace treaties once released. Just another day in humanity's accidental conquest of the galaxy, 1 cup at a time. As she steamed milk for another order, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what would happen when the aliens finally discovered Earth's other great culinary secret, Grandma's chocolate chip cookies fresh from the oven. But that was a crisis for another day. Right now, she had a quantum physicist trying to explain to a group of silicon-based life forms why they couldn't actually download the taste of an espresso directly into their neural networks. Some things, she called out to them, are meant to be experienced the primitive way. And in that moment, as various alien species nodded sagely while sipping their drinks, Sarah knew that humanity had won. Not through force or advanced technology, but through the simple art of brewing a decent cup of coffee. Sometimes the best revenge really was served hot, fresh, and with just a touch of cream.